media.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Fringe. Canada has a massive homelessness and affordability problem. We've made no shortcomings of it here on the channel. We've talked to great extent about the millions of people who line up to use food bank services, who need help with their mortgages, who can't afford to use their utilities. Of course, premiers like Daniele Smith have stepped up to say that, hey, we're going to try and make things a little more affordable in the lines of utilities and making life more affordable for Albertans. But what do we have to say about the rest of the country, especially with the overwhelming amount of refugee-seeking immigrants that are piling into the country that stay in hotels on the taxpayers' dime? Things have gotten really out of hand, and I want to show some of that today because Canada has a large problem on the rise, and some people aren't what they seem, and I've got an update to somebody we talked about yesterday that we're going to get to. But first, I want to talk about this a little bit. I just want to show you. Now, this is Oakland, California, but Oakland is under the guise of Gavin Newsom, who is a very close friend to Justin Trudeau. In fact, they're kind of bum chums as they hang around together and pal about. But let's take a look. Look at this in Oakland. This is homeless encampments in Oakland, California, where people just cannot afford the cost of living. They can't afford to make ends meet, so they resort to pallet shanty style houses, tarps, cardboard boxes, trash, gutter trash. The crime is so high. I saw a video from a local podcaster in the United States who visited an In-N-Out Burger in Oakland that had to actually shut down because the crime in this area is so high they couldn't afford to stay in business. An In-N-Out Burger, one of the fastest growing chains of food supply in the fast food industry. Oakland, California, of course, is a good example of what Canada's turning into because we're seeing more of this here at home. Now, Oakland's encampment is being cleaned up by the state. The state has finally said enough is enough. As of the time of filming this video, I haven't seen any kind of progress, although an announcement was made about a month ago that the state was going to clean those things up. But the city of Hamilton says it now, 10 months ago, allows homeless encampments. And this is just footage of what's going on in Hamilton. Because where are people supposed to go? People are in need under Justin Trudeau's Canada. People can't afford to pay their bills. People can't scrape by. Simple jobs anymore do not meet the demand of today's economy in terms of cost versus wage. People simply have to be homeless. We've heard about military veterans, people working in the military who have to essentially live in their cars because they can't afford to live anywhere in places like Vancouver when they're working with the Navy. This is alarming for Canada. But one of the most important things is that while these things are happening, and one of the largest things that Pierre Poilievre brings to everybody's attention when he talks about people using food banks and making food more affordable and axing the carbon tax so that the farmers who bring the food to the store can make it less expensive, that it doesn't get passed on to the customer when they're not enduring the carbon tax, we sometimes reach out and give a helping hand to those in need. But those who are in need are very deceptive to a degree. There are those who genuinely need help, and there are those who, well, like this gentleman we showed yesterday, are, I'll use the saying from Transformers, they're more than meets the eye when it comes to their needs. Now, this gentleman, I'm not aware of his name, but I'm going to show you this video, and then we're going to get back into the tweet that came out about it. If you didn't catch yesterday's video, it's a 36-second clip. Here we go.
This is how I save hundreds of bucks every month in food and grocery.
All these groceries for this week I got free. This is for everyone, all the students. They even have hot food at our university.
यहाँ पे most of the universities and colleges में food banks होते हैं, which are run by trusts, churches या फिर non-profit organizations. Let me show you what I got this week.
You can take as much as you want. सारे basic fruits and vegetables, bread, sauces, pastas and canned vegetables, which is subject to availability.
This has been very helpful to me as a student. Check with your seniors or university websites and you will get the location of the food banks.
This, to begin with, made me sick. when I showed this video yesterday when I was talking about corruption within our governments, because usually there's staple marks for people coming to Canada abroad to learn from our universities that they must show they have enough income to support themselves when they come to Canada to go to schools. So first time I saw this video, I said, this is a little bit corrupt, because we've seen these kind of videos before. We've seen people that seem to abuse the system. Now, I don't want to judge anybody. I don't want to sit back and say, oh, well, this guy doesn't look homeless, because then I'm stereotyping. But it's hard to believe when he's wearing nice clothing, his hair's done up, he's well trimmed on his facial hair. He seems to have it all together. Now, he claims to be a student, and he very well could be a student. But one thing we notice about this tweet that's very alarming, and this is where we're starting to see things going in Canada. I've seen it a lot in Calgary, especially. This guy has a job as a bank data scientist for TD Canada Bank, a position that averages $98,000 per year, and proudly uploaded this video showing how much free food he gets from charity food banks. You don't hate them enough. Here's the problem. What we hate are the scam artists. This has nothing to do with the man's race, where he comes from, but we've seen this time and time again. Now, this is alleged. I am going to say alleged because I have messaged this person. I've reached out. I've tried to find any means of verification as to who this individual is. But aside from these tweets, I've heard no response. I've had no response. I reached out to TD Bank and heard nothing back from them. But $98,000 a year has no shame. Now, people are going to say, well, he claimed to be a student. How does he have a $98,000 a year job? Some people get, it's almost like an internship, but a paid internship at certain positions while they're in university. This does happen. I have seen this happen. So while this man's making $98,000 a year, which is roughly almost $4,000 a month take-home pay, he's taking fresh fruit from food banks, which I don't know about you guys, but I don't know any food banks that have fresh fruit, especially in abundance like this man was showing. Nice loaves of bread, different sauces, all stuff that relatively looks costly from the grocery store. But there is a silver lining. The same person who posted update, food bank bandit was fired. Of course, it appears that they reached out to TD Canada Trust and said, they replied with, "Dear so-and-so, thank you for bringing the video to our attention. The alleged actions and message captured in the video do not align with our TD values or culture of care. I can confirm that the individual named in the video no longer works at TD. Thanks." And then there's a name that's been blanked out, TD Customer Care, Customer Problem Resolutions. So again, it looks legitimate, but I cannot do anything more than speculate at this moment, folks, that if that's the case, if this man in fact is making he's going to need the food banks now. If he was making $98,000 a year and this is the result, that's what needs to happen. More of this needs to happen. Now, I see a lot of this in Calgary. I'm sure you folks in small towns, larger municipal towns, you guys see this all the time. My local Walmart, there's always people sitting outside with signs. And the problem is that as a person myself who can sympathize with those who have had a hard time, sometimes you walk into the store, maybe you say, you know what, I'll slip them a few dollars, I'll buy them something to eat, I'll do something nice for someone, I'll pay it forward. But the problem is, you don't know if these people are legitimate. What am I talking about? Well, a lot of people in Calgary have been busted on different social media groups via photos, via videos, via people who recognize their faces, posting them online saying, if you see these people, don't give them money. They don't work for a living, which means they're getting money given to them tax-free from the tax-paying citizens and then going home and living the high life. I know one person who admitted to me they make roughly $450 a day sitting outside dressed as a homeless person asking for money. And it's not just in Calgary. We look on here, top 5 fake homeless people who got exposed. This is something that happens in the US. Now, just here's an example of what I was talking about.
For a start, it's not just one fake homeless person, it's a whole group of them, and they even coordinate to make sure they don't hit up the same spots and raise any questions. As if that's not bad enough, they also have children with them that they basically use as like props, all the way from like elementary school age kids to babies young enough to breastfeed. Anyway, this group sits around malls in 2s or 3s, and all of them have signs that say they've lost their jobs and have kids at home to look after. People in the area were actually really nice at first, giving them money and asking if they needed any help. But then they noticed that the signs each group had looked weirdly similar. That's when they got the news involved, and pretty quickly cameras caught the people acting, well, not so homeless. Turns out the group were all driving rental cars instead of getting on the bus like they said, and made a living driving around the country pretending to be beggars. That's pretty shameless.
The young girl making sure they didn't leave their sign behind.
Same sign.
Or this group that panhandled outside the Fallbrook Center.
Now they moved to Westfield, Topanga.
Only to drive to another mall a few miles away.
Oh, you lost your job? Oh my gosh.
Our undercover producer approached this woman and daughter who admitted that she's a regular.
Number 4.
So, of course, I'm not going to show the whole video. This is alarming, to say the least, that homelessness seems to be a very lucrative business in Canada. Now, when you think about the statistics that Pierre Poilievre gives off whenever he's talking about the roughly 3 million people who use food banks on a regular basis, how many of those people are legitimate? This is the biggest problem. Now, for one, I, running for mayor's seat of Calgary, have said that I want to put a law in place that prevents this, that stops this, that makes panhandling with signs illegal. Now, people are going to say, Derek, that's heartless. But the bylaw would ensure that if police catch people panhandling, that they're offered assistance, that they're taken to shelters, that they're given the help that's actually required of them and not shown out onto the streets to scrimp and get by. The problem here is that a lot of the times when you look at genuine homelessness, people either can't afford to live, they can't afford to eat, they have addiction problems, they aren't aware of where they can go. So I think that putting programs like that in place not only weeds out the scam artists, but it helps those in need and gives them the proper resources, again, which I would happily fund as the mayor of Calgary, to ensure that we clean up the homelessness on the streets. Because when you clean up the homelessness, you actually put a dent in the crime that goes on around it as well. So you're killing 2 birds with 1 stone, and that's the way at least I see it. But let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. Are you happy to see about this food bank scam artist, if it in fact is allegedly the truth? Let me know your thoughts down below. If it's your first time here, I hope this video's earned your subscription. Make sure as you're hitting that button, you check the box to ring the bell for notifications, and join us live every Friday here on the channel at 8 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Pacific for Friday Night Fringe, every Friday night, where we go over things like this. And then we also have a little bit of back and forth with our community. I look forward to seeing you guys there and look forward to chatting with you every week. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and have a great rest of your day. I'll catch you on the next one.